Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of Jake Talks Star Wars, and today we're talking about the Aftermath series of novels. Aftermath is a series of novels released starting in 2015 as a part of the Road to the Force Awakens, kind of bridging the gap between Return of the Jedi and the sequel trilogy starting with the Force Awakens. And the goal was to explain what happened, uh, what happened between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, because Lucasfilm decided to do this almost real world time jump. This 30 some odd years between the sequels, the prequels, or the sequels in the original trilogy, and so the story is going to focus on the aftermath, the immediate aftermath of Return of the Jedi, and how the Empire responds to that, how the New Republic responds to that, and kind of how things come together. And I really like what it does, because it does a lot. It tries to set up the rise of the First Order and explain why the Empire is same but different, right? The Empire is really similar. The First Order is really similar to the Empire, but it's different from the Empire. And it's going to explain why that is. It's going to explain why the New Republic is the way that it is, why it's not quite very effective in the sequel trilogy. It's going to explain, a little bit of that kind of stuff and just that state of the galaxy in general. So, very interesting. A lot of things I liked about it. I liked the story itself. I liked the new characters that we get to meet, Nora and Temmin Wexley. I love Mr. Bones, the B1 battle droid murder bot that Temmin builds. I really love that. I love that Wedge is involved in these stories in a big way. Wedge Antilles is involved in a really big way in these stories. And I love how we get this main story, but we also get some interludes in the books, right? Each book has several interludes that kind of are not a part of the main story, that are describing something else happening somewhere else in the galaxy. So we get Cobb Vanth is introduced in the Aftermath series. You guys, if you've seen Mandalorian season 2 and Boba Fett, you know who Cobb Vanth is, right? You see Cobb Vanth. We learn about him discovering Boba Fett's armor in the Aftermath series. So we see him in an interlude. We see Lando regaining possession of Cloud City in an interlude. We see different groups of Force users. I think it's what do they call themselves? The Acolytes of the Beyond or some such. Carrying out attacks all over core planets, right? These like a force, like a dark side force cult who are like activated, who are carrying out attacks on Corellia and on other core planets, and they get a hold of different artifacts, and they're even encouraged by dark side advisors to Palpatine, like that Yup Tashu guy. So we get to see what they're doing, and we get to see what the New Republic is trying to do as it grows exponentially in a very short amount of time, and as it starts exerting its authority very, very quickly. But also we get to see how the mission changes from defeating the Empire to governing the galaxy, and how those two missions start to compete with one another and start to rub up against one another. So again, I really like what we get in this book. We get a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of it really sets the stage for what we're seeing in projects now, for projects in the Mandalorian series, in the Ahsoka series, and again, obviously, in the sequel trilogy. Kind of sets the stage for the failures of the governments in the sequel trilogy, right? That being said, there was some stuff I wasn't a fan of as well. I grew up with the old expanded universe where most of the novels included the whole gang, right? It felt like you couldn't tell a Star Wars story without the whole gang. And you don't really get that in the Aftermath books. You don't really get that. You get Leia sometimes interacting with Mon Mothma. You get Han sometimes interacting with Leia, or interacting with Chewbacca, or interacting with our other characters. and you get Chewbacca, obviously, and you get Mon Mothma, and you get Akbar, and some other characters like that. But Luke is virtually absent. He's mentioned. People talk about him, almost like hushed voices, like he's some kind of rumor, right? And people call him like the golden boy of the rebellion and all this kind of stuff. And he's just gone. He's not really present for very much, which is a bummer for me. Like, I want to see more Luke Skywalker. I want to know what Luke Skywalker's doing after Return of the Jedi. I want to know how he processed his participation in those battles against Palpatine and with Vader. I want to know how he processed that, how he dealt with that, and how he starts to connect with other people in the galaxy to start rebuilding the Jedi. I want to know that. And I hope that those are stories we tell in the future, because I want to see those stories told. Very much so. But that's not what this movie is about. I keep saying movie. That's not what these books are about. So the books, they're you got to read them and you got to pay attention, because you've got a core storyline, and then you have kind of like competing storylines. You've got Mon Mothma doing some stuff. You've got Han doing some stuff. You've got the Empire. You got Rey Sloane and what's going on with the Empire, and her trying to figure out the Empire and hold the Empire together, because similar to the old expanded universe, the Empire just falls apart without Palpatine. I mean, it just comes crashing down, and it devolves into groups who are fighting and infighting and just against one another, and people are surrendering, people are choosing to fight, people are running, all these things. So a lot of different competing threads with that, but we get the introduction of really mysterious characters like Gallius Rax, who's kind of the main bad guy of this, and we learn kind of a slow burn who Gallius Rax is and what his mission is. And again, at the time, we learned a lot about what his there was so much speculation about who he really was. Everybody thought he was actually Snoke, and he's not. Spoiler alert. But everybody thought he was Snoke, but he's not. But we kind of see that slow burn of the Empire transforming, and we learn more about the way that Palpatine viewed the Empire and how he viewed how the Empire should operate post Palpatine. And his view was that it shouldn't, right? So, very interesting story overall. Great series of books. Definitely worth reading. Definitely worth checking out. I think they'd be a valuable read prior to Season 2 of Ahsoka, prior to Mandalorian and Grogu, to kind of really flesh out a lot of the stuff that made the Republic what we see it is in those stories, right? Because you've already seen some of it in Mandalorian, the Republic being somewhat ineffective, and you've already seen the whispers of that, and people mention that and things like this. So seeing the seeds for that, I think, would be helpful if you want to know more about the lore and the canon and things. But overall, great series of books. Definitely worth the read. You can probably get them now pretty inexpensively, so I definitely recommend you check them out, because it's a great read. And like I talked about in my Star Wars Reads video last week, reading is a great way to kind of turn off and unplug for a while, guys. It's important to take that break, to reset our brains, to get away from a screen for a while and just let our brain kind of stretch. And reading's a great way to do that. And reading something fun, reading a story, is another great way to do that. So I really encourage you to check it out. Let me know if you read the Aftermath books. Do you like them? Are you a fan of them? Do you agree that you would have liked to have seen more of the original characters? Do you like all the new characters just as much as I do, maybe more? So let me know what you think in the comments below. You can also reach out to me on Threads and Instagram at Jake Talks Star Wars. I'm also available there. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you all have a great week. I think today's Friday, so I hope you have a great week. I hope you enjoy your Friday, going into your weekend, and take care of each other out there. And I'll talk to you next time. May the Force be with you. Bye-bye.